Is CrossFit racist?
You are now listening to the Project Kuwait. Where we stop at nothing to bring you the right facts on health, fitness, and psychology. Featuring some of the world's most experienced professionals so you can learn, lift, and live. With your hosts, Meg, Dr. D, and Mehdi.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of The Project. And in this episode, we have Harvey Hughes coming on the project. For those of you who haven't listened to the episode that happened with me and Marlene Anderson, which was Is CrossFit Racist? I would recommend listening to that episode and then coming back to this one. Harvey came on, sent us a couple of DMs, and commended us on that episode and bringing up that topic. So thank you everybody. Enjoy this episode. And don't forget to leave us a rating and review. All this and more in today's episode. Harvey, thanks for coming on, man. And we're joined by Dr. D also. And we actually just wanted to get your story as a black man in the sport since 2009, correct?
Yes, it's been a long time. I started back in late 2008, early 2009.
All right.
So is CrossFit racist? That's our question, yes.
Is CrossFit racist? No.
Really?
Episode over, right? Question answer.
So hold on a minute, but you're saying you got slacks because some people saying that CrossFit is not like that. So we're talking about people in denial because obviously we know that the people majority are white in CrossFit, majority are white in golf. So if you think about it, why are people like really upset when you bring up something that's a reality? Like this is what bothers me when we talk about racism is like as soon as you say something, somebody has to defend it. Like when I teach cross-cultural psychology, someone always has to put their hand up. I'm not racist. My roommate is black. Okay. Like what does that have to do with you? Why is it every time we talk about something that's cross-cultural racism, everyone gets so upset about it? Tell me there, Harvey.
Okay. So, there's a bit to unpack with that. I guess one of my favorite excuses is the one you brought up, like the old "my friend is black" excuse, right?
That's right. Exactly right.
But in regards to CrossFit specifically, the organization or the brand I don't see as racist because there is no one stopping anyone from participating. Mm-hmm. Now, we know there are some economic issues where the price might not fit every economic status, therefore representation might be a little skewed. But I feel like that's kind of the low-hanging fruit if we point to economics. I can give many examples of CrossFit affiliates in larger cities that have a very diverse membership group. The other thing that kind of bothers me about someone saying that statement is it kind of perpetuates the idea that people of color or non-white people are of lesser means than other groups. If we keep that type of mentality, it's going to be very hard to get inclusion because whenever someone sees someone of color walk into the gym, they're already going to make that assumption of, oh, maybe this person can't even afford to train here. Why should I waste my time speaking to them about what goes on inside my facility? Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think what we witnessed with CrossFit was more of a crisis of leadership versus a issue of diversity or racism. The issue of diversity or racism within the sport is actually a symptom of a larger problem with how the leadership was actually running HQ. So that's kind of my take on that.
That makes sense. I can see it from that perspective, and I respect that in all honesty. And the only reason why I said that is because the research that I did before that episode and, the research that I done previously pointed at Black athletes, Asian athletes in CrossFit weren't getting the same attention as some of the other athletes that were in there. And I'm sure you've heard the stories. It's no
Absolutely.
secret. It's no secret what happened with, I think it was Chandler Smith a couple of years ago in one of the chats. And I just went and did my research on a lot of forums. And the same thing kept popping up is that, what's the point of going to play a white person's sport? That's what it was branded at in a lot of, forums and Reddit, especially. Can you comment on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So there is an issue with representation on the top level as far as like the athletes, which are featured both in the games and then also affiliate owners and other people within the community. The reason why I say it's a problem with leadership is a good friend of mine, or not a good friend, but a guy that I've learned quite a bit from the last year. His name's Logan. He's the owner of Gym out in Venice, California. Over the past year, I've been kind of working with him, learning more about leadership and how to build an organization that is what he calls anti-fragile. And what anti-fragile means is, doesn't mean that an organization breaks under pressure, and it doesn't mean the organization stays the same under pressure. It means that an organization actually gets better as you apply pressure to that organization. Now, the only way that can occur is if the people at the top of the organization make an agreement amongst themselves to communicate honestly about what's going on. And that's like cross, title, everything you can think of. And I'm talking about really true, honest communication. Unfortunately, with HQ, what we've seen in the past is if anything that came up that was potentially negative towards HQ, their position was either one where they were extremely defensive or they were dismissive. So when we have issues of race in CrossFit and people bring up like, hey, this athlete's doing really well, they should probably get a little bit more attention because it's going to bring more people to the sport of different backgrounds. HQ a lot of times chose to do nothing. Because of that lack of representation, we now have the reputation or the kind of, I guess, image of being a completely white organization, brand, and sport. The other thing I think that was really, I don't want to say a mistake, but cost CrossFit a lot as a brand was pushing the games as the number one marketing tool for the brand. Because when you do that, you start to glorify individual athletes, and it takes away from what we really should be doing and what a lot of affiliate owners pre-2012 were in this for. So if you're pushing athletes, that's fine. Make sure that you're including many people of all kinds. And it's really hard to make those decisions when the people in the room kind of all look the same and these issues don't affect them directly. Mm-hmm. So it would be really hard for me to say, to comment on women's issues because I'm not a woman. And the issues that plague women aren't something that are going to be on my radar. But if I have a spouse that I care about and she brings those issues up to me, I'm going to be more aware. But unfortunately, with HQ in the past, that hasn't been the approach.
Right. And if their majority of their members are white. But I'm interested in, why did you get interested in an all-white sport per se?
She's the head doctor, man.
I love that.
I'm out of this point.
Oh, yeah. So it's okay with me because, you said a lot of interesting thing. And definitely you're saying that what you're saying is that if a sport, and any sport has the majority, there are like white members, the white members are not going to bother to try to make it diversified because actually it's not going to impact them in any way. While I, as a woman, if I go into a sport and it's all predominantly male, of course, that issue would be very important to me. So it would be something that I would want to address. But for you, knowing that you are entering, and obviously you know a lot about CrossFit and you know that it is an all-white sport. So how did you get interested in it? And were you worried that your color would play an issue?
That's a very good question. For myself, I started back in 2008, 2009. At the time, the climate and the culture of CrossFit, the people that were doing it, especially at the gym where I trained, was mostly first responders and military. The guy who owned the gym was a former Marine recon guy. Interesting enough, he was featured on Every Second Counts, which is the first CrossFit movie.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's the guy who got to play the villain. He held a lot of the world records. But I think when I showed up and I noticed the community and everyone was accepting, and also with it being more of a military first responder background, there's less of an emphasis on the color of your skin. Like everyone's in it together because like, you're my brother, you're my sister. This is what we do. We're in this thing together and we're all getting better together. Now, the other thing I want to speak about is when I actually transitioned from member/athlete to coach, to head coach, to running a facility. The facility that we ran was actually the one I started at. And we had an extremely diverse population within the gym. I'm talking everything from old people, young people, Black, white, Latino, the full spectrum. And mostly, the majority, I would say, we're in like a lower income area. And what I found is we didn't start out and seek to be diverse. we ended up being diverse because every time someone came in and spoke to us about joining our gym, our message was clear that we valued certain things. So we were able to put a value on the dollar amount that someone was spending. And then also after someone was already a member at the gym, we had certain rules in place to ensure that the coaches can kind of cultivate a culture of togetherness. And then also, if you're a coach, no matter if you're coaching or not, you're not allowed to walk past someone, another member, another coach, a staff person, without acknowledging their presence. So by setting that standard and harvesting that culture within the coaching team, it trickles down to the members. So people feel more included in what's going on in the gym, and they actually feel like they're part of the gym.
Which sounds like something that actually a lot of gyms should be actually accommodating. And maybe this is something that should be more of a practice. So that way people that are coming in that are from different ethnicity or color, that they could feel that they can fit in. It doesn't matter where their social class is or color or gender.
Absolutely.
So if more people can apply that kind of a standard, it would be good. How long you been in Kuwait?
I've been in Kuwait since 2018. So March 2018, I guess we're over 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And you came here as a coach for a...
Yes. Yeah. I came here as a coach. Oddly enough, what the things I was just talking about are actually the reason why I'm here. Because one of the guys at the gym where I work, he came in, never done CrossFit before. Our first Q&A session was about an hour and a half of me answering his questions about what it is we do. And we built a relationship, and he was Kuwaiti. His friend had a gym. A few years later, he kind of emailed me about a job offer. And a few months later, I was on a plane and I was here. So, building those type of relationships and making people feel included is not only good for the person who's being included, it's actually better for the entire organization.
That's nice that somebody here that owned a gym, that wanted to really kind of include you in that process, have you come here and try to plan that like that type of an organization. You always hear people that own gyms, they're just, it's a profit for them. Everyone wants to work out and for them. So they're not really taking personal interest in what kind of thing can they offer their members. So I think that's nice. But I guess my question is that since you've been here 2 years, obviously we're talking about CrossFit as it is in the Western society, but here, have you faced similar kind of issues? Do you feel like CrossFit and being a person of color, does that play a role here, or is there other factors that we have to think about when we're doing CrossFit in Kuwait?
In regards to CrossFit in Kuwait, just the gym culture in general, race, not that big of a deal. Definitely not an issue, I would say. I think in this part of the world, it's more racially diverse. So you're used to seeing people of different skin colors and everything. So what I saw when I first came to Kuwait, which bothered me a lot, which we had to kind of change within the gym, was status based off of your performance or ability as an athlete. So, for example, I had to kind of check people about their language when speaking about other people in the gym. Things like, oh, he's not good at that. It's like, okay, what does that mean? He's not good at that. Or, idolizing someone else within the gym because they are good performance-wise, when in actuality, that person really doesn't add much more to the gym than a new person in the door. That person who's new is also just as important. So those types of things I see in Kuwait, with CrossFit kind of being wrapped up in this whole competition mindset and everyone's kind of training hard to be the best athlete. Unfortunately, I feel like that also feeds a lot of ego and vanity. So
CrossFit, yeah,
that's another problem.
There's a lot of ego in CrossFit, man. I mean, this is the one sport where I think every CrossFitter, excuse my language, Dr. D, is a dick. And
yeah,
that's just. I mean, Dr. D, you need to meet some CrossFitters.
Oh
no! Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, man, but it's so true, dude.
Yeah,
you have to deal with vanity and ego then more than color. So how do you deal with vanity and ego? Seriously, I don't know.
Here in the worst place in the world, man.
You have to build a culture within your gym. It's hard because you've been posting a lot of stuff about the performance enhancing drugs and people taking steroids so they can look better. And it's a very vain thing. Fortunately, in our gym, we've been able to kind of avoid those issues. I won't put all of the, acclaim on myself, but we just have a culture within our gym where we value learning and education. And we value that more than someone's performance and being a community and being a family and being supportive of one another. If you push those things, everybody will fall in line. And the people who aren't into those things just won't be part of your community because you're not selling what they're buying.
And Dr. D, let me give you a little
true.
background about Harvey's Gym over here because, you know, I got to do my homework when people come on the show. And the culture, I mean, from what I've understood and what I've heard about Harvey and about the gym, that the culture has changed there dramatically.
Such a good student you are.
I know. Well, I learned from the best. She used to be my teacher. And, you know, you've cultivated a culture of learning, education, excellence. You have a lot of great athletes that are coming out of there. And I mean, you kind of turn that place around, dude. I remember going there in 2015 and it was, I mean, I never stepped back in, to be honest with you. You know, I walked in there once and I was just like, shit, I'm out of here. You know, but now the word on the street is that it's the place to be right now. If you're an athlete or if you're an aspiring coach who wants to learn from the best, and you and David are over there, and, you know, you guys have a really good thing going now.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting process for me to kind of see and go through. Fortunately, I have a lot of experience in dealing with management stuff. And then also coaching is actually like my third career. This is, you know, I'm 37 years old. So it's like, I'm a lot older than some of maybe the other coaches at some of the other gyms. But that's actually helped me quite a bit because I have a clear vision of what I want to see. And people respond to that because they're at the gym because they might be uncertain about certain things. So it's my job to make sure we have certainty under that roof, you know, and if I can build certainty and trust and just a loving environment, people are just going to thrive and they'll be able to do things they never thought they were able to do before. So I feel really fortunate to have found a gym that allows me to do that. Also a staff and an owner that supports that. And we're all on the same page. And we just kind of do it all together and try to be mindful of one another and what we need. So, but, you know, it was a bit of a mess when I first got here. So I'm really glad I was able to do something because the people, not only within the gym that I work at, but the people within this country deserve something like that. And if I can just do my part to maybe elevate what the expectations are for training and fitness and what a facility should be, like, I mean, that's all the reason I'm here, basically.
Now, question, and Dr. D, you can jump in on this. I'm sure you'll have something to say. Now, walking into a gym, you have a bunch of alpha males, a bunch of big egos that are in the room all the time. And especially in CrossFit, and from what I've seen in CrossFit and what I've seen in Olympic lifting and lifting in general, is the guy that lifts the most is the guy that you're going to go talk to. And not necessarily, I mean, in baseball, it's different. You know, I played baseball my whole life, and sometimes the most mediocre players have the most information to give versus weightlifting in the gym. Most of these big guys don't have the background. So did you have to go in and was there any pissing contest? I mean, I got to put it in those words. Like, how did that go? Did people automatically respect you or did you have to whoop their ass on the, you know, the gym floor?
Bro, that's such a funny thing. I was thinking about that the other day. Like when I first arrived at Kuwait, fly in, I'm the new coach. We go out to dinner and everyone, all the athletes at the table, there's like, I think 7 or 8 of them. And every question was like, so how much do you snatch? So how much do you clean and jerk? So I was like, what's your swim time? Everything was like such a competitive thing. I'm like, whoa, guys. I'm like a coach. Like I do this for a living. I haven't competed since 2012. And then so there was a little bit of a kind of a weirdness from them because they didn't really understand like what a coach actually was or should be. And then whenever I got on the floor, I had to kind of earn their respect by just doing my job as a coach and pointing out the little things that they were doing wrong that would yield immediate results. I mean, there were so many people in that gym who were really strong that, you know, they just needed a little tweaking here and there, like small cues, like keep your chest up, push your feet into the ground, all those things. And once I started kind of proving myself in that regard, like they don't care what I do. I could just sit on the couch and eat Doritos all day as long as I'm able to get on the floor and coach. Like, you know, and it's been a really cool thing to kind of see them change and respect coaching. And more so, the thing I've been proud of during this whole pandemic is I was I've been able to see them kind of coach their family members and do a really good job, like programming wise. Like, for me, that's the gold star. I'm sure Dr. D, you can relate. When you see a student do something, you're like, yeah, I did my job.
Like I do with Mehdi, I've done my job. That's why he's a good researcher, and that's why he does his job. But you're right. It's like you go into, here there is a lot of alpha males, but the idea is that this intimidation, and maybe because they saw you and they were intimidated by the knowledge you have, because they don't understand what coaches are, then they have to impose all these numbers and say all these words, which psychologically we know that it's more a projection of their insecurities, right? So having them understand, that's why we're talking about earlier too, this ego, and how do you try to monitor, because you do see it more in your field. Like in my field, I guess I don't see it as much. Obviously I'm the professor, so the student can't act out their ego with me. And when I do therapy, that's what they're working on. They're trying to impose or foster their ego. So I'm sure that in the gym, you guys see it a lot more. Maybe this is the reason why I don't belong to a gym now that you're saying. I feel like when I did belong to a gym, you go in there and you see all these people that look good and you don't know a lot and you're not looking as good as them. Yes. And I felt intimidated, to be honest. I've joined maybe 7 gyms in Kuwait and I never gone more than 1 month. That was the max. And because I felt like I go in, I don't know as much. Do I really need a trainer? I'm not a CrossFitter. I'm not anything. I'm just trying to lose weight and, look good. And I felt intimidated because I felt like other people came in there and a lot of the girls looked so good and the guys were so competitive. I didn't feel like I fit. And so I'm like, this is not for me. And then I decided to just have a trainer by myself because I felt like I didn't want this competition. I didn't want to go to the gym looking so good. I'm there, with my trainer, I just put my clothes on. I go, my hair is in a bun and I'm not competing with anyone. And no one has to say that I don't know as much or that I'm, and I think this is a culture maybe we need to foster more in gyms. Then you could, I have patients that are overweight and I say, well, why don't you go to the gym? Actually, just a week ago, not the gym, but a week ago, I was talking to this person who 6 months ago, I said we should go to the gym. And most of the time, no, I have to lose weight before I go. Why do you have to go lose weight? I thought this is the reason. But it's true. What she's saying is what I thought also a year ago. It's like, no, doc, you don't understand. You go, all these girls look good. All these guys are competitive. They're so skinny. I feel like people judge me. I don't want to go in there or not do very well in my training. Someone's looking. And, this culture has a lot to do with the way you impress and the way people see you and how you look. And so that puts extra stress on the individual that doesn't meet the norms or doesn't meet the criteria of what a gym is, to be honest.
Absolutely. And extremely intimidating. And then to bring this full circle, everything you're feeling, and then let's pile race on top of that. And how does that feel? To go into a situation where you're already feeling vulnerable and then not feeling like you're being accepted by the community. So that's why I said it's very important for the gym, that the gym owners and the coaches and the people who are in charge to make sure that you're fostering that type of culture within your gym. Because no matter someone's color or the amount of money they make, they deserve a fair shot at your services and they deserve to be a part of your community. If you're not doing that, then I kind of feel like maybe you're missing the point of being open as a gym. It's really unfortunate when you see that. I'm sure you've been to visiting gyms, and for example, myself, if I go to a gym and I go to visit, I'm very comfortable in a gym setting, so it doesn't bother me. But I have been in gym settings as a visitor, as a drop-in, and you can just tell this is a place that they're so focused on individual performance and measuring it up to one another that this is just a toxic place to be. So why would I spend my money and my free time in a place like that? It makes no sense. Working out and...
Is it a toxic place, Harvey? When you get to the competing at a high level, right? And sometimes you're only as good as the training partner that you have, or you're only as good as the people around you. And, there have been a lot of philosophers who have come out and said, you cultivate the mannerisms of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So when you go and hang out with the best athletes and, rustle around with the best athletes, you're essentially going to be a big dog on campus. Now, I know what you mean. I think I even know what gyms you're talking about in Kuwait, outside of Kuwait, in the region.
No, I don't go to other gyms in Kuwait.
Yeah. All right. I'm pretty sure I know. There are a lot of gyms around the world where it's a very competitive environment and they breed an air of arrogance within that gym. And I've seen it. I've walked into those gyms before. I get what you're saying, but isn't there truth to compete or you train with really high level athletes? You're probably going to perform at a high level also.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. As the old saying goes, iron sharpens iron, right? So, but there needs to be a guy in charge of how the irons are being sharpened.
100%.
So, how much is sharpened?
How much is sharpened? Are we sharpening it so much we're cutting people's head off on the way through the door?
Exactly.
But yes, there is a benefit to training with really good people and being ultra competitive, but it can reach a point where it's no longer building a healthy environment for people to train in, where if the value that you're getting from your training is how much weight you're lifting and you're not getting paid for this, then I would say that you might be a little bit off balance in your approach of what we're doing. You know, I can speak to our gym specifically. That's actually kind of our motto for 2020. You know, before the pandemic, it was like iron sharpens iron. We're all going to train together. We're all going to be one team, and we're all going to be about the gym above one individual person. And by doing that, that doesn't mean we exclude the people who are new, who are not part of that competition thing, but it just means that we're going to do our best to represent the gym in the right way. And we're also going to do our best to feed the healthy side of our community, you know? And I feel like there are gyms that do a good job of that. If you look at CrossFit New England or Invictus, they have very strong communities within the gyms and they do have amazing athletes. So it's not necessarily that all the time. But I do feel that sometimes the competition aspect of it overshadows what we should be doing as affiliate owners and head coaches. Our job is to make people more functional.
That makes sense.
What does function mean? It makes everyone's day-to-day life a little bit easier. Initially, this entire CrossFit thing was about that. Even the games was not presented in the way that it's presented now back in 2009, 2010. Before the games was actually a presentation of what CrossFit could do for individuals and a display of people doing the CrossFit programming, now putting it into practice. There's not a lot of that going on anymore, especially at the higher levels. When you look at the programming for these guys who are top athletes or individual programming that I might do, programming model looks a lot more like traditional strength and conditioning work, where there's linear progression and things that we know have been proven over the last decades. But there's not a lot of the actual CrossFit template being used. So I would say that sometimes the message within the gym is a little bit muddied in focusing on competition versus focusing on the community and actually getting people more functional.
100%. Great point, man. Great point. And you know, and I agree with you. That's my one knock on CrossFit is it's not cross-functional to every sport. CrossFitters can't throw a baseball or hit a baseball. You know what I mean? A CrossFitter can't.
Oh, they tried one time.
They did. And like the furthest guy threw a ball like 280 feet. And I'm like, that's a joke. You know, like in high school, that's an absolute joke. But I want to go back to what you guys were talking about with walking into a gym and, you know, being prejudged as you walk in. There's a gym here in Kuwait. I did a review on that gym on our Instagram page, and I'm causing shit right now, which I love to do.
Imagine that.
I know, right, dude? I know.
Not you, Maddie.
I get so much hate mail. I love it these days. It's so good when you get hate mail because you know that you're just pissing people's egos off.
I need to cut my relationship from you.
You might.
All this shit.
I get silent sponsorships. All right, these people are like, all right, like just we'll give you money not just to not mention our name, okay?
That's a good way to make money.
Hey, you never know. But in all seriousness, there's a gym here in Kuwait where if you go there or you want to become a member, the owner has to give you the tour or the general manager. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this gym. And they do it, so to speak, to make sure the right people are going there. Now, I had a problem with that because I felt that it was discriminating. I felt that it was racist. And it was just like, so you're judging me based on social class? Are you shitting me? It rubbed me the wrong way. I still joined the gym because I wanted to try it out, and they had a sauna. It was right next to my house. Yeah, I love saunas, man. So what's your opinion on that?
It would depend on the purpose of the, I guess, Q&A pre-screening process. I would have to have context. For someone who walks into my gym,
it's a mixed gym, by the way. It's a mixed gym. It's a mixed gym. So I got to put that one out.
You just want to just give us the name. You dropped every clue It's a mixed gym. Not next to this.
Right by Marouge. You can kind of throw a rock and hit it from Marouge. Can grab a pizza after you work out.
Yeah.
But hold on a minute. To be fair, don't you think that if you have a certain gym and you want a certain people to be in it, is that really discrimination? Or is it that I own the gym, I only want certain type of people because that will bring me more business and more money and I can charge them more?
Isn't that discrimination at its finest? I mean, isn't that racism and discrimination at its finest? It's like, look, you don't make enough money, you can't come here.
It's discrimination. No, it's discrimination. But do I, as an owner, I've invested money into this thing. Can I not pick the type of class of people I want to be in it? Or I know it's discrimination. Forget about the word discrimination as a sense of like me as an owner. Can I cater it to
control
certain type
the environment, so to speak?
Yeah. Why is that so wrong? Because, there are a lot of other things that I cater to certain type of people. 5-star caters to people who have money. Do you know what I mean? Certain areas here in Kuwait caters to certain.
But that's it. Put your price point up, like C Club. I mean, C Club have an extremely high price point that not a lot of people can get to. But this gym's not there. They're not at that price point. I don't know. I just felt othered when I was walking in there. I was like,
I mean, obviously,
am I going to get this? Am I going to be allowed in this gym? Are they going to let me?
Yeah.
I shouldn't have felt like that. Like, I shouldn't have felt like I was going into a job interview.
Yeah, it's true. And it would bother me and I wouldn't even join. You at least joined, which that means you
they
fed
had
into
a pool,
their,
they had a sauna, all right?
You fed into their discrimination. I wouldn't have even joined. But the idea of it is that having this concept of like, I only want a specific age or specific social class or Kuwait, because it's not like in the US where we can say, well, this is all white club, this is all black club, then definitely that's like racism in your face. But can you not do that here? You can.
I mean, I guess they're doing it, so you can. I would say that it wouldn't be the best way to go about things, in my opinion. The pre-screening selection for members, or I would say the pre-information phase for members, the Q&A, the sit down, the tell me a little bit about yourself, should be more informational for the person who's looking to participate. So if someone has the money to pay, I don't feel like they should not be allowed to join a gym. But I do feel like the responsibility is on the person who runs the gym to clearly communicate what the expectations are of people within that gym. Because honestly, in gyms and in sports, inclusion is always better. 100%. And it's not just better for the person being included, it's better for the people within the organization. If we were to look at, let's take baseball, for example. So baseball after integration.
Yeah.
We look now and it's a much better game than it would have been otherwise.
100%.
And the only people who are upset about integration are people who hate black people more than they like baseball.
Yeah.
So like, I kind of feel like we should always allow people the opportunity to join us within our clubs. But, if it's a private club, then those are the rules.
It's a country club.
Right. I mean, if it's a private club,
that's why I'm not a member there anymore.
My rule.
I mean, those are the rules. So.
That's what it is.
But that's the thing. I mean, if you set the rules out for the members once they join and you're like, these things are not tolerated, you will be asked to leave, then it's clear cut rather than saying, you know what, I'm going to give you a little bit of a job interview and I'm going to judge if you're good enough to come to this gym. That's shitty. Like I think that's everything people are fighting against. You know what I mean? Like that's just my opinion. But yeah, so.
I have a question now. Whenever you fill out your form in these gyms, like since I've stopped becoming, I don't know, a member, do they really have somebody looking at it and approving you and disapproving you? It's true? Or no, that's not true. Everyone that fills out an application and pays their fee, they get in automatically?
At my gym, yes. Apparently not at this other gym that we're speaking of.
So the other gym can say, they can call me and say, Dr. D, you don't qualify.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You mean someone is looking
They
at my
can.
application, Mehdi,
100%.
and saying that?
No, they're not looking at your application. They're looking at you. They're looking at you. Like you go in there and like you literally have to make an appointment to have the gym tour. And
okay,
they basically approve or disapprove, or they'll say we have a waiting list. And this is multiple gyms. It's not just one gym. It is not just one gym. I want to make that clear that it's multiple gyms
well, thank
here
God
in
for the
Kuwait.
pandemic, because there is no waiting list.
I know right now there ain't going to be no waiting list to a gym. But, Harvey, but before we wrap up here, I got a couple more questions. And I'm sure you listened to that episode. And there was one more thing that I dived into about my issues with CrossFit, and especially when it comes to youth development. And there's only one school here in Kuwait that I know of with youth that really gets involved with the youth, and that's CrossFit BSK. But even in the States, there aren't a lot of outreach programs to kids, so to speak, like baseball, football, basketball, soccer. It's focused really once you get into like 16, 17, 18 years old. So can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, with your diverse background.
Okay. Yeah. So at my former affiliate back in Texas, we actually did have a program where we would take kids who were having issues. They're middle school age. So I guess they're like 13, 14 years old. And we would basically do summer camp for them. So we would have 3 or 4 kids come every day for an hour during the summer. We had good results with that program, but eventually it just kind of faded away due to some issues. You know, I would like to see more of that as far as having CrossFit or exercise in schools, especially now in the U.S. And I'm not sure what the situation is here, but we don't even have PE in some schools anymore. At my previous gym, we did have a program where we would kind of help some kids middle school age. But, you know, I would like to see more programs like that because I think it's good for kids to get exposure to exercise. But I also think that it's not necessarily good for kids to behave like miniature adults. They need to be playing sports. If you look at the guys who are doing the best at this style of exercise or in the competitive scene, they're all people who have multi-sport backgrounds because there are certain things that you cannot train with the barbell as far as coordination things, speed, those 10 physical skills that are up on the wall at all these CrossFits that we should be working on. Like a lot of that gets built when you're a child. So I always encourage sports first, and then there can be some exposure to this style of exercise, but it needs to be really, really monitored. And it should be structured more like play versus like, you know, really, really intense programming. Once you start getting to the age of like 16, 17, like post-pubescent and, you know, that kind of age, then we can start looking at taking this a little bit more seriously. But overall, that's kind of my take on it.
That's a good perspective. I mean, I only bring up CrossFit BSK because I was talking to John. He runs it over there, and he brought up a couple times how it builds up confidence in the kids. It does a lot for their psyche. And I think that's so important because CrossFit does build confidence. Like we talked about it earlier, it builds confidence, and then you can become overconfident, and you know your ego blows up a room, basically, especially here in Kuwait. And, you know, it's interesting to see this sport. And if it wants to grow, I think the growth is going to come at the youth level, just like, you know, baseball and any other sport, little leagues, you know, NGOs, you know, CrossFit, they don't have NGOs set up. And, you know, I mean, no offense to you. I mean, you work in a box and everything. It would be great to see boxes doing more outreach programs with private schools and getting kids involved more. I think that's something that we lack in this community in Kuwait in general, which is, you know, community service. We don't have it. You know, it doesn't exist. You say
a lot of youth services.
100%.
A lot of sports for youth. I mean, why do you think I just wanted my son to go to boarding? He's going to 10th grade. I think it's because I felt like he didn't really have a lot of activities for, you know.
Wow.
I mean, he did skating, but there wasn't a lot of option that he could do. And if he doesn't like certain sports, then for kids that don't like soccer and don't like, basketball, then in his school, for example, there isn't as many things to do. It would be nice to have these community services or places that even in the summer, like unless it's like these camps, but even these camps is like it's geared for certain things, or he can volunteer. For example, there's no volunteering last year. I got him to volunteer at this place. But what I'm saying is that these are the things that our kids are really missing. And, I just remember talking about this. This is how important it is for kids, because it really builds strength. And this strength helps you when you get older. I can tell you why, because I wasn't an active child at all as a kid. I was overweight, but I was a very smart student. So my parents never really pushed any activity. Like all my other siblings, they know how to ride a bike and they swam. I didn't do anything. And the other day,
I'll teach you, Dr. D. I can teach you how to ride a bike.
Adult, I get injured. It takes what parents really need to understand now that I know of myself. And that's why I push my kids to be active, is whatever strength you're building as a child really helps you when you get older. So I wasn't very strong as a child. I didn't do any activity. So even my skin, the type of skin it is, do you know if I get injured, the scar stays there longer? Because anything like that, it takes longer for me to build muscle. It takes me longer to do many things. And I think that it has that development that I didn't have at the beginning. While other kids, like I have a friend, she lost a lot of weight older, but she was an athlete when she was younger. When she lost weight, she didn't have any loose skin, because somehow that muscle tissue that you did up to high school and going to college and then later on losing weight, it's not going to affect you as much as when you were someone that was overweight as a child, didn't exercise. I never even used muscles until I became an adult. And now it's true. And so if I lost a lot of weight, I have loose skin, and it takes me double the time to really work on my skin, because it's such difficult texture of it or something. And even my doctor was saying, Juliet, you're just skin. You scar it, it stays. It doesn't go as fast. And I really want to encourage parents to think about, put your kid active. We've got obesity here in Kuwait. People are feeding their kids. They're just swimming a little bit in the chalet. They're not walking as much. And, it's like, so they're not really using a lot of the muscles that they should be using at the prime time of their life.
I mean, that's definitely something that is important, is to kind of build those good habits. I know I can speak for our gym specifically. We try to encourage participation of people who are of younger ages. So one of our classes is actually kind of designed to be, I guess, less skill oriented. So it's pretty much barbell movements like deadlift, squat, bench press, that kind of stuff. And you can do that at any age, with modifications depending on, how coordinated the kid is. So we do have that program. And then we also give discounts to kids during the summer. So the BSK kids, when BSK's closed, guess where they're training? They're training with us, right? So they're doing their workouts. We love having them there. They're all amazing kids. But I think you're completely right. We need more of that in order to, build better people later on in life.
100%, man.
But I definitely agree with that.
Dude, thanks for coming on the show, man. It was very enlightening. I love your perspective on CrossFit and the race issue. I think you've really changed my mind on it, to be honest with you, from the way you presented it. And I really appreciate that perspective, and I appreciate you coming on, dude. And hopefully we could get you on to talk about actually, weightlifting and, throwing a barbell around and, the gym stuff. Like we wanted to bring him on. Dr. D, he was scheduled to come on before Corona, and then Corona happened. And, I was like, all right, let's wait till this goes, because I like doing face-to-face interviews unless it's something that's, in the moment.
Yeah.
And hopefully we get to do that soon, and you get to come over and, chat there. And Dr. D, you can join in on the fitness talk. I'll let you in on that.
Absolutely, man. I would love that to come back on. You guys are amazing. I really, really want to commend you on the work you do. It's fantastic, quality stuff. And I really, really like that you guys are enlightening this area of the world to things that we take for granted in the U.S. There's so many things that you guys touch on, so many great guests that you've had on, everybody from Mind Pump Sal to, even Marlene, or people who are local. And I feel like you guys do a very good job of exposing people to not only a lot of aspects of just the physical health, but Dr. D does an amazing job of talking about the benefits and importance of, taking care of your mental also. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Harvey.
Thanks, man.
So I want to train with Harvey now. That's it.
He's a good coach. He's a good coach.
I found my trainer. Yes.
Dr. D, he's an amazing trainer. I mean, look, the word on the street, dude, is I don't know what you guys are putting in the water over there.
I know. The word, That's it. I found my match. That's it.
Come on. We'll be more than happy to have it.
But is your gym mixed or is it all men? Oh, now
we're all guys, but we can.
That's it.
Wait a minute. So now you guys are all guys. See, when I went there in 15 or 16, I want to say there were women training, and I was like, "Is this a mixed gym?" And someone was like, "No, it's not." And then, yes, it was. And dude, the air of arrogance when I walked into that gym in 2015, 2016 was just, I mean, it was a different atmosphere. And I really got to commend all you guys and ownership on turning that place around, because now everyone's talking about you guys. You're like the hot topic around town. And looks like you guys are stealing a lot of members, man. And coaches.
No, make it a mixed gym, but make it a mixed gym. It's not fair.
We have a female class, but it's a little too late. So we're trying to figure out what time we can actually kind of sneak it in. Not sneak it in, but put it in, because we can't have men and women in at the same time. So maybe there might be an opportunity for us to open another location. Hopefully somebody who's listening might help us out with that.
That would be awesome. And dude, I got to come to your gym once you guys open back up, and I got to really give you guys a review. Seriously, you guys have some great stuff going on over there. And thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, dude.
Thank you, Harvey.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at The Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.